In this video I'm gonna show you how to create a menu similar to the one I use in my game. It has an image background, it has a highlight image, and when you click it, it also changes the image. So you have this effect. I'm gonna start creating a new project on Pygame. It starts with a default code, but we don't need this one. I need to tell you that I'm assuming that you already know how to program in Python and you are familiar with Pygame. If you are not, I recommend you to look at a more basic tutorial after you continue on this one. I just created now the default code for this. So this is just what I usually do for Pygame games. For now I don't have Pygame installed, so I need to install it first before I run the code. Can go in File, Settings, and Build Execution, Project, yeah, and Interpreter. And then here I can just install Pygame. With this code you can already run some thing in Pygame, so let's just see how it is now. It should be only a blank screen, so I need to choose the file which I need to run it. Just a blank screen and we should be able to ace it. Okay, there's some issue here. Okay, so I need to import this on my main file. Now we have our screen and then we can start drawing the menu here. Let's start by just a simple button. So we have our button class created, so we need to instantiate it here. So for now we are only gonna test it. It's not the menu yet. If you test it now, we should be able to see a black square. That's gonna be the button. So we need to improve it now, because now it's just a shape. I add some tests now to identify a button. So you can just put some tests here like play the game, quit, load, etc. Here we need to specify our font, and we don't have it yet. I downloaded one from, let me see, from fontspace.com, I download this font from there, and I'm gonna make it available on the description below. I also put in this code on the GitHub. If you wanna check the code, you can just go there. If you see the issue now is because we are drawing the text on the position 0, 0, but actually you need to put it on the position 0, 0 from the button. So this is not 0, 0. We should be able to see now the text inside the button. But it's gonna be, okay, we need to increase the button, and it's drawing on the position 0, 0. So it's always gonna be on the top left corner. We can change this to make this centralized, and that's what I'm gonna do now next. So it should be fixed now. Okay, so moving on, let's go to the menu. We still need to change this. We need to put an image as background, and we need to make it highlight and change it again when we press it. Let's put first on the menu, and then we can change that. Now we should be able to use the menu instead of the button here. But the problem now is that we are only able to add one menu, because if one button, if you add more than one, we're gonna have some issue that I'm gonna show you later. With one button, it works as before, the same, but if you add another one, it's not gonna work properly, because it's gonna be drawn in the same position as the first one. And if you add another one, it's gonna be the same. So we are only gonna be able to see one button per time. So we need to change our add button method. And after we add a button, we need to increase the Y position. This is for the vertical menu. If you want some horizontal one, you need to change X. So it's gonna be the same, but change X for X and Y. And I'm gonna put a gap of 8 pixels. So if you run this now you should be able to see both buttons, quit and a button. Okay, there is an issue here. Self.wise plus equals. So quit was first, showing first, but it was added later, so it should be below. So now this is fixed. Okay, so let's change the background of the button. Instead of a color, let's put this one image. I have a button that some image that I draw it myself, and I'm gonna make it available as well. Just check the description. So this is a bit more complicated, because I put in the 3 images in one. So first of all, we're gonna need to split this by 3. This is gonna be the normal button, this is gonna be the highlighted button, and this is gonna be the pressed one. Okay, but this is still one square image. This is 24 by 24 each image, and it's split in 8 by 8 parts. So we're gonna have the top left, it's gonna be 8 by 8. We're gonna have the top middle, top right, middle left, middle right, etc. So for the button, to be able to make the size variable, we don't need to have a specific size. We're gonna need to resize this image. So how I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna stretch the whole image because I want the tops, the corners, to be the same. I don't want it to be scaled, but the middle parts, they can be scaled. So we need some work to do here. I think this is gonna be the more complicated part, the most complicated. So first we need a method, a function to slice the image. We're gonna slice it twice. First time is to split it into the 3 pictures, into the 3 images. And the second time we're gonna split it into 9 pictures. So for each button image is gonna be split in 9, so we can just assemble it with a variable size. So we're gonna get the rect of the image, it's gonna be the width and the height. We're gonna iterate over the initial position, 0, until the last part of it. So we're gonna go through the columns and the rows. We're gonna go through it, and we're not going to increment by 1. We're gonna increment it by the slice size. So it can, in our case, we have 24 by okay, so the first one we're gonna split into 3. It's gonna be 24 by 24. So we're gonna start at 0 until 24 we have one image, and then until 48 we have another one, and then on the next one we have the last image. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, now we have our first function is gonna split the image into 3, and then when we call this with the slice size 24, and the next time I'm gonna slice each one of those in 9 parts. So let's create the new function. Okay, now that we have the small pieces of the button, we need to assemble it. So let's create the assemble image, assemble slices. Okay, assemble images is better. Image. We're gonna pass the slices and the final size. So we want to get these slices and reassemble it into a new size, because currently it's 24 by 24, but we are using now a button of 200 by 40. Yeah, that's right. So the image as it is not gonna be enough. We need to resize. Our final image is gonna be a surface. This size is gonna be the final size. And we need this to have transparent capabilities. For the top left corner, we don't need to do anything. So just gonna put surface.bleed. The slice is 0. So the order here is gonna be top left 0, top middle 1, and top right 2. And then we continue. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the corners, they're not gonna change the size. They're gonna continue the same. The top and the bottom middle, they're gonna stretch horizontally, and the left and the right middle, they're gonna stretch vertically, and the middle is gonna stretch in every direction. I wanna show the progress, so I'm gonna stop it here and see how it is going on the button. So we need to do some adjustment because here is still using the color as the background. We have the name of the image, we're gonna have the size of the button and the size of each slice, and then the final size is gonna be width and height. Okay, this is an empty list because we didn't add this one here. Okay, it should be good now. So you're gonna see only the top left corner. Yes, and we cannot see the text because the background is white and the text is also white. We can change this easily just going here and putting black. So if you run this again, we should be able to see it. And the top left corner. So let's add the corners first and then we do the rest. For the top right, we need to know that the x is not gonna be 0, it's gonna be the size of the button, so final size width minus the size of the slice, so slice width as well, and y is gonna be 0. For the bottom left, it's gonna be the index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now it's 6 and 8. We should have all the corners covered now. Yes, so okay, so we have some mistake here. I forgot to change the index. It's gonna be 8 and everything working now. Okay, so let's go to the top, then the bottom part. They're gonna stretch only horizontally. I'm gonna use the Pygame transform function here to scale the slice that I want to. Slice 1, top middle, and then the size I want to scale it. And that's gonna be the final size, the width, minus 2 times the 2 slices, so it's gonna be the whole horizontal length without 2 corners. Okay, so the size that I need to resize to needs to be a size, so width and height. Currently we have the width, and the height is gonna be the slice height. So now for the sides, it's gonna be the same, but the scale is only gonna be vertical. Should work for the left part, and then you just copy and paste for the right part and just do a little bit of change. And now we are missing only the middle part. And the middle is gonna scale on both axes, X and Y. Okay, now we have our background. We need to make it change when it's highlighted and when it's pressed. I'm gonna create some methods that I'm gonna call later. On the button is gonna be when the mouse is over the button, so I'm gonna highlight it. When the mouse is not over anymore, I'm gonna go back to the normal background. Then when the mouse is pressed, the button is pressed, and then when it's released. So when it's over, we're gonna change to the second image, so index 1. Let me show again. The index 0 is gonna be the standard one, index 1 highlighted, and index 2 pressed. Now we need to make sure that we are calling this method when this needs to be called. First of all, I need to know when the mouse is over the button. There's a method in Pygame.direct called collide point, so I'm gonna do this here. It's gonna receive a position and it's gonna check if the current rect, if the position is inside the current rect. So if I do this, it's gonna return true if the position is inside the coordinates of the rect, and false otherwise. So this position here is gonna be the position of the mouse. So on each of this method, I'm gonna iterate each button. So for button in self.buttons, and I'm gonna check when the mouse move. I'm gonna see if the mouse is inside the button. So if button.collidePoint position, if that's true, then we can call button.onMouseOver. So we know this is over the button. Otherwise, we're gonna call onMouseOff. That means the mouse is not on that button. We're gonna do something similar on the other methods as well. So in this case, onMousePress, we're just gonna check if we are over the button and I pressed it, so onMousePress. And then if I press one button, that means I didn't press any other button, so I can just break the loop here, just put a return. You don't need to, but why not? So you're gonna do less computation, but that's not really required here. I'm gonna do the same here, but now for the release. So now how are you gonna wire the mouse move, mouse press, and mouse release to the events. We need to go back to game, and on the handle events, we're gonna check. Currently, we're checking if we quit it. If that's true, then we just call the quit function method that's gonna put running equals false. In case for the mouse, if you wanna check if there is some movement in the mouse, you can do the same. And leave e.type equals pygame dot mouse motion. That means the mouse moved. And then we can call self.menu dot on mouse move, passing the position of the mouse. So let's we need to define what's position here. It's gonna be by pygame dot mouse dot get pos. Now we have the position of the mouse, and you can do this. You can call mouse move, passing the position. The same goes for the pressed. So when the button's down, that means I'm pressing it, and I need to make sure that I tell which button needs to be down. If I only put this, if I press the left or the right button, even the middle one, this event is going to be triggered. But we don't want that, just when we click with the left mouse button. So I need to put e dot button, button equals 1. That means the left mouse button was clicked. Then we can just call the on mouse press. And now the same for the when we release the button. So when on mouse button up and mouse button equals 1, we can just call on mouse release. And now we can test it how. Okay, there's some mistake here. Okay, done. Now you can test it, and it's gonna be working with the highlights and with the press. On mouse release, there's some issue here. Object has no attribute. So let's mouse released. Okay, let's rename this. And now it should work. So when the mouse is over, we can see the highlight. When we press, we can see it changes to the black image. When I release, it goes back to the normal color. And if I move it here, it's gonna go to the highlight. So that's done for the background. Now we need to add some actions on the button. So when I click it, it needs to do something, right? So for the first button, let's just put some print to see, hey, it was clicked. And for the quit, we can just call the quit method on game. Now this part I'm gonna show 2 ways how to implement that. First one is with the if, and then I'm gonna show how to do it with callback. That in my opinion is the best for this kind of issue, because you don't need to keep track of so many ifs and else's. So if I release the button, that means I just clicked it. I'm gonna go to menu, if menu dot, we need to create another method, get button at position equals 0. That means the first button. We're gonna print button clicked. If we click on the second button, we're gonna call self.quit, and we're gonna quit the game. For this method, we're gonna use the collide points again. We're gonna go through each button. If it collides with the button, we just return it. But now we don't return the button itself, but the index. So range of length of buttons. If you run this, now our button should be working. So button clicked only when I release it. And if I press quit and release it, it's gonna quit the game. So that's it for the first method, and the second one is the one that I actually use in my projects because it's much easier and more natural, I would say. So on Python, besides variables and some literals, some integers, we can also pass some function as parameter, and then we can call that function later. So let's see here. To create a button, we're gonna send a callback as well, and then text and callback. We're going to button, it needs a text and now a callback, and then self.callback is gonna be equals callback. So this is gonna be a function, okay? So when do we wanna call it? When we click the button, so when we release it. So when we release, if the callback is not known, we can just call it with parentheses. And now here I can create a method self.button1 clicked, and then it's gonna print button clicked. So this is a method, and we can pass this as a parameter. We just need to do self.button1 clicked. If we put parentheses here, it's gonna call the function, so we're gonna see it's gonna execute it, and we don't want that right now. So that's why we just put the name of the method. So in button, when on button release, when I wanna call it, that's when I use the parentheses. Okay. So this is for the first button, and for the second one, I'm gonna call self.quit without parentheses. So if I run this one, I don't have the ifs anymore. If I click on the first one, you're gonna see the method being executed. This doesn't need to be a method specifically, because this method here, button1 clicked, doesn't need to be inside game, because self is not used anywhere. You can just put it outside. And then we go here, and we don't need to use self anymore, because this is not a method, it is a function. So if I do this, everything's gonna work as before. So button, it prints when I release the button, and quit, it quits. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoy it and took some ideas, some inspiration from this on how to make a better code for the menus. And that's all.